What's up, Bitcoin Radio? This is your host, Joe Blackburn. You're listening to another great episode of Bitcoin Radio. Here at WBTC, we want to make sure that we're going to include the community's perspective. And today, Jeff Kirdeikis is joining me from Cryptocurrency Investing, and we're going to talk about just that, the start of the crypto communities and where they've evolved to on as far as Facebook's concerned, and then what that's scaled to as far as what CI has been doing. You know, me and Jeff kind of have this unique and very clear perspective of what community has been and done over the last few years. But this really is a special kind of perspective because I think of all the people in crypto, me and Jeff probably can relate to each other the most. And I've got him here right now. What's going on, Jeff, man? Introduce yourself.
Hey, Joe. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm so excited you finally have Bitcoin Radio going on. You know, I love listening to your streams in CCT. And so I think it's just such a massive value add to the world now that, you know, you get to pump it out at a global scale. So super excited and honored that you have me on here. And it's a beautiful day here in Squamish. And looking forward to having some fun with you here.
Absolutely, dude. And for those of you who do not know Jeff, Jeff is the founder of Cryptocurrency Investing. It's a Facebook group similar to Crypto Coin Trader, which I'm co-founder of. And he's also the founder of Uptrennd, which is a really kind of unique in the space, this way of socially engaging while having the ability to write articles, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But Jeff, let's talk about let's just dive right into the Facebook side first. You know, as I mentioned in the introduction, we both kind of watched this space grow up through the altcoin infancy. And we saw what happened in 2017. We saw what happened in 2018, and we see where we are now. And I think our picture of this is much clearer than pretty much everybody else in this space. I'm not saying we're predicting the future, people. I'm not saying that we were able to predict the past. All I can tell you right now is that we've seen it all happen. We've heard from our individual members. I know both of our inboxes probably stay rolling. And again, Jeff, you're one of the few people who can just relate with me on this. And the first question I have for you is, if we can kind of go through the birth of cryptocurrency investing, the Facebook group, and everybody else, just so y'all know, cryptocurrency investing is even bigger than the CCT. I'm sure our engagement is probably pretty similar, and I know that that you guys have about 140,000 members. Just crossed it not too long ago, right, Jeff?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I think we went through the same thing. We crossed it once, and then 2018 hit. And then we dipped down, as you know, no new people were coming in, and we're banning people for low quality content or spam or whatever it is. So we've crossed 140 twice now.
Yep. And same thing with us. We actually haven't crossed back over 120, but we got to 120, and then we purged some members, and then Facebook purged a bunch of accounts that were fake, and so we went down like 112 at one point. And I just watched the group like slowly lose members one day at a time. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I look over at Cryptocurrency Investing, and you guys were at a standstill too, and it made me feel like at least we weren't crazy. We weren't doing something wrong. It was both of us.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's hear about the beginning. Let's talk about CI from the very beginning, Jeff. How'd you guys even get started?
Yeah, CI was an offshoot of a group I started called Ethereum Investing. When I found out about Ethereum, my mind was absolutely blown. And me and a few of my friends were really big into pot stock investing, actually. And so I thought, and we always shared our knowledge about pot stocks, and it helped us grow and invest so much wiser because we were sharing knowledge. And so I thought, okay, well, there's this new thing, Ethereum. I think it's going to absolutely change the way that our world operates from an immeasurable amount of levels. So let's start up the group, Ethereum Investing. There's 12 of us. And just because of keywords, new people started joining, the 13, 14, 100, 1,000, 30,000 people in Ethereum Investing. I'm like, Jesus, like this really took off. And so I decided, let's not pigeonhole it to Ethereum investing. Let's create one called cryptocurrency investing. And so that's the group you're referencing today. And that's the offshoot of Ethereum investing. And the growth happened a lot quicker than Ethereum investing just because we took such a large user base from Ethereum investing right over. And the big thing, I feel that, in both of our groups, that stands our groups apart from all these other Facebook groups is that the engagement and the foundation of the whole group's intention is to be a spot where people can share knowledge and help each other out. And I think that's what really sets us both apart and what keeps people engaged. And it's fantastic.
It is. And I'll even say, and by the way, I didn't mean to leave out the Ethereum investing group. I know you guys have had that for some time. And you brought up a good point that, where CCT became a group because of the same reasons. And it wasn't because we had a group before that. It was an offshoot of another group that I had no part of. But that group that we started was not necessarily intended to get big. We didn't know what we were doing when we created it, the same way we did with Ethereum investing. And although I know for you guys, CI was to open it up and to clarify that that it wasn't just for Ethereum. Ours was just, hey, look, let's have our 50 friends in here, and before you know it, they're inviting their friends. Before you know it, Crypto Coin Trader is something that is being searched enough where it exploded. It wasn't even, we weren't even prepared. We had a little help because of guys like Todd Blackburn coming from Cryptocurrency Collectors Club, and he left that group and came over, and he had posted that that's where he was going to go and start posting more. And so we got a nice boost from, I think we were at 3,000 or 4,000, and he doubled our numbers in one day. And so when that happened, that was the momentum that we had. And when we started moving forward, 2017 was just beginning. I think we were April, and you guys were what, August or June or something along those lines?
Yeah, around there. I think July was a CI start. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was in between there. The 1 month I didn't freaking say, of course. But but regardless, that was right smack dab in the middle of Bitcoin Cash, right before that they forked, and both of us were experiencing this incredible growth and this incredible almost just fan club that was starting to build within this for crypto. And I saw so much unity, so much camaraderie, and it was a family. And I could say the same thing about CI. I've been part of you guys' group for a very long time. I got in around October of that year, and I didn't even know there was another group that existed like CCT. And when I saw it, I was like, I mean, this might be a little bit, naive of me, because I was like, oh, CCT, great group, But besides CCT, CI was the only other one that I would even take seriously at that point. You guys had done an incredible job building that momentum and that structure to build culture within. And I think that's such an important part of this, is that we both built culture.
And I'm curious, because you mentioned build culture, and I fully agree with you. Like, what do you feel are some of these like pivotal foundations of like what creates a culture in a group?
This is the age-old question, right? Some of it's by accident, just I guess what we were doing worked. But to me, it was referencing the fact that nobody really was an expert. 2017 was the beginning of the altcoin craze. And although 2016 had altcoins, and even 2015 and 2014, you had Doge and Litecoin and all these other things were shitcoins at one point too, right? And as 2016 ended and 2017 began to happen, the interest was starting to grow and people saw opportunities, and they were very, very speculatively really bullish on what these altcoins might do. Also, people who were just getting in saw Bitcoin at $800, $1,000, and they're like, that's really expensive. I'll buy Ripple for half a penny right now. And you had this influx of money. You had this influx of attention from this. And so the culture part that was built was, hey, be welcoming, warming, and understand. And this is something that I said from the very beginning, that these people are brand new, and you were new once too. And my voice, coupled with not just mine, there was other people involved too that I'm very grateful for. I don't want to pretend like it was just me and CCT, but my voice was always trying to make sure that the new person was understood and treated with respect. It's the internet though, right, Jeff? You're going to have assholes, you're going to have trolls, and you can't end that. We're not going to stop that from ever happening. And honestly, they have the most engaging posts. I'll reference Todd Blackburn to this day. A lot of people hate him. Todd's been around for a long time, and including me, nobody has been more engaged than Todd's post every freaking month. He's one or two.
And I guess, like if Todd didn't add value, though, it'd be a whole different story. I think, Todd's personality is really something that's incredibly unique. But the key foundation that I feel like creates the culture so much is that when somebody adds so much value, people just kind of can push to the side, whether there's like personality traits that may be a little less agreeable than others. And I think that's the whole foundation. When I look at CCT, it's the members are actively adding value. I'm trying to think. Tim, he's like, what the F do I know in these TA posts? And they're fantastic. And I think this is the mentality that everyone has to go into, just saying, you know what, I'm going to put myself on the stage. And so for anyone who's listening and not understanding the reference, he's just this guy, Tim, and he just started, and he's like, you know what, I don't know anything about TA, and I'm just going to start trading TA, putting my calls on the group, and people can help, give insights. And this is, I feel, what is the most valuable thing to a community, where you can watch someone's journey, someone's progression, become inspired by it, help them grow. That's, to me, that's the zest. That's my favorite use case example, even between both our groups.
Absolutely. No. And I'm glad that you mentioned and referenced Tim there, because, a lot of people don't know that Tim, who is a moderator on CCT, I actually did a video with Tim. He did not know we were actually going to do, I told him we were going to do a practice live that day. And then I was like, Tim, you're doing a great job. Let's just do it live tonight. I'd already had that planned. He doesn't even know that. He'll hear it on this podcast. But he did a good job. He was comfortable enough. He was like, okay, I'll do it. And, getting on there and getting Tim on there, people don't understand. Tim's just a regular guy, works a 9 to 5 job. He works his butt off. He's not some, crazy rich guy who got into Bitcoin in 2011. Tim is me and you. Tim is you and your family. Tim is every person that just started in crypto. And he started that way, and he was always humble about it. He never really believed that he could ever learn TA. And one day he just decided, I am going to learn TA. And all the TA that I have been doing, it sucked. And I'm wiping the slate clean. And Tim said, I'm starting over from scratch because all I've done is lose money. And I'm going to start doing this correctly. And I'm going to do it publicly and hold myself accountable. And he started putting it out there three and a half months ago. And the dude has built not just a fan base, he's built a belief system that, hey, it's okay to not be right all the time. It's okay to put my stuff out there. And he admits that he's going to be wrong. And he's been doing a phenomenal job. And I encourage people, if you're not following Tim, go to his personal Facebook profile, click the follow button. This guy is as real as it gets. He's being honest, and he's exposing himself, being very vulnerable with that potential. And I just love that innocence about Tim. He wants to help people. He wants to give an example. There's nothing else to be said in crypto is peer-to-peer caring. All right. And I know that can be sensitive sounding. It's not what I mean. It's Tim cares what other people perceive about crypto. He wants people to see that it's okay to not know what you're talking about. It's okay to ask questions. Do it right here. I'm here. That's just special.
And he's such a figurehead and a leader for people who, because like you said, he's been doing that for 3.5 months from scratch. Yep. And he's already, in my opinion, established himself almost as a thought leader in the space of TA after 3.5 months. And to me, that's the most inspiring thing for anybody in the crypto space to be like, wow, we're still so new in this game that I can become somebody in here if I just dedicate myself for 3.5 months. Because the guy makes a post and engagement everywhere. People love him. They love his modesty, the humility. People are able to help him. And I think that's the key is if you're just willing to dive into this space with humility and openness in collaboration and synergy, there's no way that you can't win.
Exactly right. And he's just a great example for, hey, it's the opportunity still out there, people, right? And Tim has only been out moderator for CCT for 6 or 7 months now, right? I know, Jeff, you've gone back and forth with moderators. You've had probably, as many moderators as you lost at some point. And, you understand the value in which moderators bring, and they do it selflessly and they do it for free. And so I kind of want to digress a little bit back to what you had said earlier, because, the way that I explained how culture was built, I know you guys probably felt, or at least established yourself in a similar way, but I am also interested in how the culture was created in CI.
And I feel I've touched on this a little bit, but the big thing is, really just the whole foundation from Ethereum investing and that inception was we're a group of friends who are here to help each other and to share knowledge and to be a bunch of Tim Paces. That's our foundation. We were a bunch of Tims. We don't know, we're not experts, but we're here to help. And so that was the culture that we've been trying to, and very, I guess you could say aggressively pushing forward in all the groups that we have. We're all here, we're all learning. And I feel like I'm fairly nice in the group most of the times. But then when some people start just making these blanket objective statements, it makes me snap. It's like, oh, Bitcoin's going here at this date. It's like, oh man, like it kind of frustrates me because this is what kind of sewers a lot of new people because they start putting trust in people who really don't know what they're talking about. And so the culture that we're creating is essentially Tim squared or Tim cubed, whatever you want to say, just, hey, people, get in the group, share what you can, learn from people, help them out, give insights. And if Tim could just replicate himself into a million different people, I think he'd be the perfect candidate for both our groups.
Please. Yes. More Tims. I'm for that. Look, but I'll split them with you, Jeff. If we can figure out how to replicate the Tims, we'll divide them in half. I'm down. We'll get right on that. All right. And, I've never been a really big Twitter guy. In fact, I just got on Twitter about a month and a half ago. And I just find it a little bit short-sighted at times. And that is not to say that the people or the influencers on Twitter are short-sighted. Absolutely not. I got tremendous respect. That is a whole different beast. And it's not one that highlights my assets. What I'm good at, Facebook is really, it's really welcoming for me. Where Twitter is so short and so small, I'm a man of many words. I know that you know that, Jeff, and you could probably be very similar to me in that respect. But there's a reason why our generation, me and you, are on Facebook, and this newer generation, a lot of people that are younger than us, have found that home in Twitter, and people that are our age too. I don't want to give that idea that people that aren't our age aren't on Twitter more. That's definitely not true. But Twitter offers short, sweet, informative and oftentimes to the point, or most times to the point, at least relatively speaking. And I think Facebook allows that discussion in that community. And that's what I feel like that crypto is missing, and why Twitter can almost be a little negative, is because people get on Twitter and they're either being really excited about something or they're being really sarcastic and trolly. I often find that there's really not an in-between, Jeff. And that could be a little bit generic because I'm not on Twitter that much, but it could be so hateful or so pumpy, and in crypto coin trader, you can get shills, but you at least get sensible explanations back. And often, and we can regulate the negativity a little bit by banning or deleting posts. We oftentimes don't do that, but what do you see, man? Like, the difference between Twitter and Facebook?
I see Twitter is for people who are really looking to follow a leader or a figurehead, and to just put trust in that one person. You compare that to Facebook and the dynamic. Facebook, everybody's talking. There's no hierarchy of levels, whereas on Twitter, this guy has 100,000 followers or XYZ. And also on Twitter, what I see is that even people who are very, very intelligent kind of stoop to a lower common denominator. You look at a guy like Anthony Pompliano. The guy is a super, super smart. But if you look at his Twitter deck, it's like, the electricity went down, Bitcoin never goes down, or like the banks had a Friday, Bitcoin never has a Saturday kind of thing. And it's like they're very shallow posts, I find, on Twitter, that, like you say, they're either on like one end of the spectrum, like super pumpy, or on the other end of the spectrum, super hateful, like FXRP or, Justin Sun. And people love that. They love the two ends of the spectrum. And so, whether it's like, Bitcoin never goes down, or, Justin Sun sucks, like, people are going to hit the heart a lot more often than if it's just kind of like this in between kind of like, again, I'm going to have to reference it. Tim Pace kind of TA. It's like, here, guys, like, what do I know? But here's what I'm offering. In a community, you're going to get so much discussion and back and forth, not just between the post creator and the initial replier, but people on Facebook, will reply to each other. So it's kind of like a town hall meeting where everyone's talking. And so the dynamic I really like a lot more on Facebook than Twitter, for sure. But of course, it's all subjective to who, like, and that's me personally. And so whatever an individual's personality is catered to, if you just want to follow one guy who makes certain TA calls, like Science Guy for Ethereum, like, by all means. But I just find that an interesting dynamic between the two.
It is. And Jeff, you actually just brought up a point that's a little bit off topic, but it was like 2 weeks ago, I got a notification and someone was responding back, like as if it was happening in real time, to a post that I had made back in December or November. I can't remember the exact date, November-ish, of 2017, and talking to me like in real time. And I thought that was so, actually, I had to turn the comments off because I didn't want people to get the wrong impression that this was an accurate or relevant discussion, because it was right before Bitcoin hit $10,000, and it was around those times. And I was explaining, my perspective on why I think we'll at least hit 10. We may go back down. And they're like, they were responding to me. This is just 2 weeks ago, about why Bitcoin is not going to hit $10,000 again anytime soon. And I'm like, bro, I responded back to him like, bro, dude, this was from 2017. Anyways, I know this is off topic. It just brought up that. But to your point, man, you kind of hit the nail on the head, and I agree with you. I personally just have so much respect for the people that put themselves out there. And again, like you've used Tim as an example here. He is a great example for this very reason, is that it's hard. People are scared to make mistakes in front of the crypto community because it can be so harsh and so damning. And unfortunately, I understand why it's that way, because we have to self-regulate, but it does suck that we can't be a little bit more inclusive to the people who do want to try. That's a catch-22. If you're too nice, guess what you get? You get a bunch of people who are saying whatever they want. If you're too harsh, you eliminate people's desires to put themselves out there. So finding that balance, I think both of us have done a really good job, and we have at least we've cultivated and grown an environment where, you might have to have a little bit of courage, but when you do it, you should be doing it with the expectations that people are going to come at you. And if you're not, it's really the duty of the community to say, no, hey, I don't think this is right, because you don't know who's reading it. So there is that unknown gray no man's land that I can't really regulate or even have an opinion on, because they both help each other. The harshness does prevent people from believing that this is going to be true, and it stops the pumpiness, and the niceness does obviously help encourage people to do things. I don't really think there is a combatant. I don't think there's a perfect solution to that. I think it just has to exist in the world and kind of let it self-regulate itself, and it shouldn't be my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And everyone has their own preferences, and I think at the base of everything, people just want to learn, and that's the foundation. And it's like, okay, what learning style do they like? And someone who's listening to the show right now, it's like, okay, I just like to absorb information coming in. That's my preference of learning.
Sure.
And that's awesome for some people. I find, you look at a Facebook group, for me personally, that's one of the best ways to learn, because if you're, confident, or let's just use the word confident. If you can put yourself out there and not be afraid to look a little stupid, and you can ask the questions that you want the answers to, you're going to learn ample more than, you'd say, like just watching Twitter posts, or you can, select podcasts and things like that. But I find it's just so much easier to just put yourself out, ask the questions, because the information in the crypto space right now is really fragmented. And so I find like a supportive, knowledgeable community, that's your golden goose when you're entering crypto.
All right, Jeff, let's move into a little bit about, how CCT and CI had this rivalry kind of going. And I want to get some perspective, because we actually don't think we've ever had this discussion. And I think that for the most part, me and you never really took it too seriously. But I can tell you this for a fact, that people around me did, and they were telling me, and they were like, right. Oh, CI is doing this. And I'm like, that's great. I'm proud for him, and I never let it get too much. And Jeff, I've always had respect for you. I think that goes both ways. But let's hear from you a little bit about what was going on in that time period. What were your thoughts about CCT?
Huge respect for what you guys were doing at CCT, because, A, the engagement was phenomenal, but B, which I find immensely commendable, is you guys never took any sponsorship capital at all. I was there. I had the sister group, I guess you could say, and the offers were constant. And so that was the big thing, where it was just like, wow, these guys are like really doing something formidable. We took all of the capital that we got through our promotions, and we did giveaways. So we'd give a percentage back to the community, and then everything else we've put back into building Uptrend. So yep. I think we've kind of angled it two different ways on, okay, how are we, because everyone has that emotion of greed. And so I think, not to pat ourselves too hard on the back here, that we've done a really good job of handling that, because I guarantee 99.9% of people in our situations would have played those cards a lot differently.
Absolutely. And we saw a lot of those people in those groups, and they died, right? And Jeff, you guys did it right, and for the things that you can say about us, I can look back and say the same things about CCI or CI, excuse me. And that was with cryptocurrency investing, y'all were very transparent. There was no shadiness. Like you said, hey, look, this is sponsored. And I had started off very early on. I didn't have that intention. I didn't have that goal. I didn't know that was even available, where you'd already had Ethereum investing. You probably had already seen that there were opportunities in some ways, and you saw a monetization opportunity that also did not have a conflict with what the group was intended for. I did not have that idea. I did not have that insight or understanding that people were doing this and that it was okay, right? I didn't realize that there was an opportunity that way until it was there. And I'd already said, hey, we're not going to do this. And I stuck by it. I stuck by it for several different reasons. But number one is because I always said we weren't going to do this. And we never did. For whatever people want to say about me, I can promise you this much. I had 2017 was really good in trading for a lot of people. And I got into Ethereum pretty early, and I got into XRP at half a penny at the time. And although I'm not a huge XRP fan, and I'm not endorsing either of these projects right now, I am saying that both Ethereum and XRP were very lucrative in 2017. So I also was in a situation where on my personal self-trading world, I wasn't too hungry with, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and up to $50,000 a week at times you would hear back. And I'm sure that you can relate to that, Jeff. But it doesn't mean that looking back, I don't wish that maybe I had structured that thought process a little bit differently. And you guys did it right. You were always honest. You were always out there, and the drama was there, and the drama made us famous at times too, Jeff, right? There's projects, there's haters, there's all sorts of things going on. The two people I know for a fact, the two people that stood still and said, hey, I was here, I did it, ask me your questions, hate on me all you want, I'm standing right here in front of it, were me and you. That was it. I didn't see anybody else taking responsibility the way that we did.
Yeah, 100%. I don't have much to add to that. It was a time, we played cards the way that we subjectively felt they should be played. And I think it's such a tough dynamic to navigate, even just replying to people. And just, what was it, 30 seconds ago, you mentioned XRP and Ethereum, and you had to put a vocal disclaimer in there. Like, the times that we live in right now are so eggshelly, especially once you're put in the spotlight a little bit. You got disclaimers here, and you got to speak objectively and not subjectively and be nice. And oh man, it's like I feel like I'm spinning 18,000 plates whenever I, write more than 2 words in that group. So it's always a fun time. But I'll tell you what, it sure helps you grow as a person on, I feel how to communicate. Like, the internet is the next wave of communication, potentially even more than person to person. And so I feel it's just such an amazing opportunity to learn how to fine tune those skills, not just interpersonally, but on a larger scale.
100%. Well said, Jeff. And on that speaking point, let's kind of go into where we are today compared to where we were in 2017, 2018. So 2017 was this huge run. The altcoin boys that came out, Moon, Lambo, whatever it was, everybody was happy.
Yeah.
And then boom, 2018, right? And I'll be the first to admit that I did not expect $3,000 or anywhere near that territory in early 2018. And it wasn't until we lost 6,000 in Bitcoin, that value in USD, that I really believed, okay, I'm in a sinking ship right now. And fortunately, I made some decisions on a personal level that did save me a little bit left, but I wish I would have done that at 19. But I also had felt a little bit of accountability to my altcoins and, my personal perspective that I had made public. If the SEC or the IRS ever wanted to come at me, I wanted to make sure that I had those things and I maintained holding them because that's what I said I was doing. So I was very open and transparent about my holding patterns. You can judge me. You can say, hey, you're an idiot, but I try to do the right thing. That's the most important thing. But it brought us to this new age of where are we today, Jeff? Like compared to then, obviously it's very different. But you have the maximalists at the moment, and you have the altcoin fanboys that are holding on, but they're a little bit more quiet, and the maximalists are a little bit more proud. And I'll be the first to admit also that I've transitioned that thought process too. That Bitcoin's been the only thing that's been at least consistently going up at this point. Where are you at on this, Jeff?
Personally, or what I see in the community?
Well, let's do both. Let's start with the community.
Okay, with the community, I feel like what we have insight to is just like a little bit ahead of like we're the human Google Trends. Like you search on Google Trends Bitcoin and you can see when it starts going up. I feel like our fingers on the pulse just before.
That is us. That's to 100%. I feel like I can smell it coming.
Yeah. And so right now, I don't feel like this is an indicator that's ahead of the time. So apologies for people listening in. This isn't a tell on where things are going. But the maximalism in the group, Bitcoin maximalism, is just through the roof right now. And, you can see that on CoinMarketCap. Dominance is at 65, 66% now, like the highest it's been since for years. And we ran this poll. I just have to bring it up. It kind of it makes me laugh about how maximalist people are. But then again, people are probably going to hate me for saying this because the poll was so strong. So the poll was, what coin will be what sector of coin will be the first coin to take over Bitcoin? And so we had a few options. We had smart contract platforms, payment coins, security tokens, other, or the last option was Bitcoin will not fall from number one for even a single minute for the rest of human existence.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a heavy statement.
Did you make all these options, or were people able to add?
Okay, so it was an open poll, so anybody could add options, and I put all those options were ones that I put.
Okay, cool.
And then other options did not make the top five.
Fair.
So out of 500 votes, which is pretty low for the group size, but let's just put it this way:
the same numbers with us. It's Facebook algorithms.
500 votes came in. 400 people voted for one option. They voted Bitcoin will not fall from number one for a single minute for the rest of human existence. Wow. So that's over Libra coming in. That's over the tokenization of hedge funds. It blew my mind. And obviously, 80% of people listening to this are apparently going to disagree. But to just think, how new we are in the cryptocurrency space, and to just have this such strong sense of maximalism really blows my mind. And, right now, altcoins, terrible, brutal. And in some regard, I agree. But on the other side of the coin, human emotion is real. And as our market cycles, and when these altcoins eventually do pick up, it may not be all of them, because not all of them are quality, but some of them will. If you look at like Binance token as a utility token, for example, some of these coins are going to pick up, and it's going to create such a monumental amount of momentum that this maximalism thing, the Bitcoin dominance, it is 100% not staying at 65%. There's too much happening in crypto right now to stay at 65%.
That's a great point. And, had you run that poll at the end of 2017, right? November or December, I wonder what those numbers would have been, right? I think it would have been very different. And if not, maybe even 50% rather than 90%,
the flipping, just to jump in real quick. Yep. The Ethereum was less than 7% away from overtaking Bitcoin.
Yep. Ridiculous. It was right there. It was, and I'm a little bit different than you on this, Jeff, is that I don't think that you could ever say that Bitcoin won't ever drop below anything, for even 1 minute. That I would not, I would never vote for that on a public level, right? That would be asinine because we do not know the future, and I don't care what anybody says. As much as I think that Bitcoin needs to be the standard, and as much as we need Bitcoin in crypto right now, this, like you said, we're right now we're still in its infancy. 100 years from now,
Yeah.
we don't know what if cryptocurrency is going to look like, or blockchain, or if it's going to be around or not. I have a very strong opinion that Bitcoin will be around for a very long time. And when it starts to dwindle, it'll be just in time for the last Bitcoin to get mined. So it'll pick back up steam. And, you can say what you want, but within the next 100 years, Bitcoin will be relevant, I believe, for at least 95% of it, if not more. And that's just my personal opinion, people. You can do what you want. You can say I'm right. You can say I'm wrong. Doesn't matter to me. This is just where my perspective is based off what I know. Now, what I also think is what you brought up was that, that human emotion is real. Let a few of these altcoins start running. What happens? Everybody's going to think they're all going to start running because the momentum is back. And the money can be created out of thin air. People are going to come back in. They're going to start pumping this price up. Maybe not even intentionally, like organically. Things are going to start pumping because people are going to feel that momentum coming. And before you know it, Litecoin hits, and then you hit XRP, and then next thing you know, we have all these fanboys back out. Tron, everybody's saying, "Hey, this is going up, going up, going up," and Bitcoin will start losing some value because people will start selling their Bitcoin for altcoins. It's coming. It's coming quickly.
Yeah, 100%. And there's you can look at the all-time high levels, and I don't think for a minute that that's a level that you need to be like, oh, well, it's going to go right back to here. But there is a mass amount of potential when you just compare it back to 2017 on just like a gross generalization level, like 7x for Ethereum, 700%. And that's one of the lower amounts on even the large altcoins. They've lost an insane amount, 90% on most of these coins. And I feel there's kind of like two factors that come into play. Well, one thing is we're going to have a bunch of new money coming in. Like, for sure, we're smarter. I agree. This time we're not going to put our money into a decentralized light bulb company. Like, we know it's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. We're smarter than that. But there's new money coming in, and they're putting it in that D light bulb every time because they are seeing potential. I think we're going to see another ICO wave. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but that's the feeling that I have. But so that's like kind of one side of the coin. And the other side of the coin is there are a lot of people who are holding a bunch of bags, and they're going to be offloading huge. So what's that weight distribution going to look like? Is there going to be more offloading for the old timers, or is there going to be new onboarding and greed from the old timers on the other side?
That's a great point.
And I would tend to lean much heavier towards greed from the old timers and new money coming in. That's just my opinion. I think altcoins are going to hit huge. Do I think a lot of them hold value? Definitely not. But I'm really anticipating a big shift in the market pretty quick here.
Well, I also think that, the people that have been in and watch this kind of evolve to where we are today, there's a difference between that trash coin that will never exist for an actual business, and what we see with the news and projects that are actually doing things. And, I'm sure that, I'm relatively still new in this space as far as, socially being involved, because I didn't really start looking into the BitcoinTalk.org. I mean, I say that, I guess it's been a while now, but the end of 2015 is when I started looking at the BitcoinTalk.org message boards and would start posting. And then 2016, I joined a cryptocurrency collectors club on Facebook in around April of 2016. And I spent that next year really starting to engage and understand. And I felt a little bit more comfortable there. So I was able to put myself out there. I think people are more accountable to each other on Facebook. It's the closest thing you can get to meeting somebody outside of meeting them in person is Facebook, because their whole life's on their profile. But as that started evolving into where we ended up in 2017, what I saw that I'm starting to see now is that people's interest, and they're getting bored with Bitcoin, and that's also going to play into this, is that Bitcoin has bored the market. And so when people get bored, they start looking into different ways of making money. So stabilizing Bitcoin, I think, is a key. But then that first run that we have with altcoins, I'm not saying it's going to be 2017, but I agree with you that we're definitely not done with where altcoins are going to be, and potentially ICOs. I think it'll look a little bit different, and I don't think you completely disagree with that. But where there's an opportunity to make money, people will make it. And now that we are smarter and the market's more mature, there's fewer coins that you have to pay attention to. And I think if you're smart, you can probably do pretty well as far as gains on your Bitcoin if you're really, really, really doing your due diligence at this moment. I mean, partnerships with Walmart, right? IBM, whoever it is that's partnering with these big companies that have some realistic and really awesome opportunities. And this is not I'm not saying go buy this coin, but Engine, right? Engine's got a really
Yeah.
significant head start on a lot of people. I'm very interested in Engine as far as what they're doing as a company, right? And that interest has parlayed my own, belief into what they might be doing. So, I put a little bit here and there, not a lot. I mean, I never put more than, 0.5% into any coin that I have, but if it does what I think it could do, maybe it may be one that goes up. That's not investment advice, everybody. I do have to disclaim that. I'm not telling you to go buy it. I'm just saying pay attention to the company and the news. Like, that's really awesome what
Yeah.
they've done. VeChain with Walmart. I mean, that's pretty legit. I mean, these are really
Yeah.
good things.
And just to kind of piggyback, like what, like how I think of, what is a quality project. You compare something like Engine and VeChain. So VeChain is doing supply chain management, and it's like, okay, is that really a proprietary technology? Can someone easily copy that? Yes. You look at something like Engine, and you look at essentially the entire online gaming industry, from esports,
Yep.
where the guy from Fortnite just won $3 million last week.
16-year-old kid.
I think 16-year-old kid. It blows my mind. I'm almost certain I saw a stat that more people are involved in video games than are involved with like football or soccer, depending on what
Yep.
area in the world you come
Exactly.
in. So it's like, this is a massive industry, and there's only one, in my opinion, project that can kind of hold the stone to be like, we are doing this for crypto, and adding massive value. And so I think that for me is like, okay, there's something proprietary here. They've got a massive head start, whereas, VeChain, it's like supply chain management. We're just kind of essentially putting little RFID chips on here and then tracking on the blockchain. It's like, well, if you can create a cheap RFID chip, you can anyone can compete with VeChain.
Sure. Completely agree. Like everything you just said, we're on the exact same page with that when it comes to that, Jeff. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Uptrend, man, because you guys have done a lot with this, and I remember when you announced it, I was really excited for you guys. I thought that it was necessary for the space to have something like this, and I was really proud of the way you presented it and how you went about creating it. You did it for minimal cost. You did it for essentially your community initially, but overall the scalability of it is for everybody. Not to pinpoint you or box you into it was just for CI or anything. But let's talk about the foundation of Uptrend. What is Uptrend in your words, Jeff?
Yeah, so Uptrend is essentially what I feel is how social media should be. So we have 4 foundational pillars. So freedom of speech, data security, equality of opportunity, and distribution of wealth. So, you look at platforms like Facebook, they're censoring you. Your data is certainly not secure. Equality and opportunity and distribution of wealth don't even apply because you're not getting paid anything. Those last 2 are kind of more geared towards platforms that are like a 2.0, like Steemit, where, whales and bots have taken over the platform. And so Uptrend essentially is a platform where we want to empower content creators. We believe that it's not the platform that should be profiting, but the people that create the content that should be profiting and earning off what they've created. It just makes sense to me. It's like if you upload a video to YouTube, legally it's theirs. And that to me is total BS. It should be yours. And so that's what we're doing with Uptrend, is we're empowering people to be able to earn, to thrive. My whole thing in like my personal life is I've always been striving towards being able to live a life that I'm able to sustain myself through a life that I just love to live. And so that's why Uptrend was created, because in the long-term vision, we want photographers, videographers, bloggers, artists, upload your stuff to Uptrend, get paid for it, and thrive through doing what you love. So that's the big idea, and that's why we created it. And as you can tell, I'm super passionate. And we just did it totally bootstrapped, no funding, nothing like that, no ICO. And it's been going really well. Our growth in July has been 4x any other month, and we're really picking up steam. So it's been fantastic to see.
No, Jeff, I could be more proud for your success on that. Your team has worked really hard, and you've done it for the right reasons. I'm a member of Uptrend. I don't contribute on there very much, but I'm definitely always watching. And I know Ben and Tim both. Pace, I think, have mentioned, that they're going to be getting more involved in Uptrend as it goes forth. CCT is a supporter of Uptrend and yourself, Jeff. And I think what you did and what you built was very selfless and with the right intent. And it provides a necessary filler for a hole that's existed in this space for a long time. And I know Steam and Medium have at times, although Medium's a different style platform than what Steam is, they've held a placeholder in certain aspects. But there is a time when, like, you're exactly right, we're so used to giving ourselves to other platforms like YouTube or to whatever else might be out there, at Facebook for example, or Twitter. We don't own our content I don't own CCT on Facebook. If I try to sell CCT on a Facebook group, guess what? Facebook actually owns that group, and they could shut the entire group down. There is no ownership. I own some branding, obviously, as you do with your, but Uptrend allows a little different perspective as far as you own own your own content. It's yours. That's very awesome. That's what we're missing. And they don't tend to take that seriously yet, but they will. And don't be late, people, because when you realize your data for sale and it's not yours anymore, you're going to be too late. You're going to be working for somebody, or you're going to be looking at the government saying, why are you doing this to me? And they're like, it's mine. It's not even fair. You don't understand what you're doing to yourself, people.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. It's that, people are on YouTube or on Facebook or on like these platforms that kind of treat them like a product, because there's this feeling of convenience over a feeling of, what is my actual preference, and then doing the work and taking the initiative to go follow that. Because signing up to a new platform where there's not as many people there, or people, or like, oh, I need to do my email authentication. It's like, oh, this is a pain and it's not worth it. And I think people just inherently like to take the easy road and at certain risks. And you can look at that through, Alexa or Siri. And we know that all of our conversations are being recorded, but because we get to say, hey, Siri, what are the directions to, whatever, like the bike shop. It's like, we'll sacrifice that privacy for it. And so people, I feel, just don't really take that kind of thing seriously enough. And we're really becoming human commodities to giant corporations.
That's exactly what Amazon wants. That's what Google wants. That's what they want us to be, is using them for convenience so that they can, mine our data, and then they can predict what we're going to do. The great hack, which also referenced this, is that, one of the things that that Cambridge Analytica was able to do was predict the outcome of each individual's personal opinions. They could predict your opinion based off of everything that they've been able to collect with you online, on your social media, on your Facebook, on your Twitter. And they're not wrong. Like they've figured out how to do that. And then, if you watch The Great Hack, it's a little bit too political for me, and I don't really like to get into that side of things, but it's the truth, as far as people can be predicted now because all of their stuff is online. It's scary, and it bodes the question, here, Jeff, what's the future for community in crypto? I mean, is it really going to be just the Twitter style of interaction where it's one person and they're talking to their followers? Or, I mean, is it essential that we maintain things like CCT and CI and enable people to congregate, at least in the area, on a massive level, and allow that conversation to be had open, honestly, and without suppression, which is what we do, unless you're disrespectful or you're hateful or you say something really stupid. You're not going to be able to sit there and be racist, bigoted, or, blatantly disrespectful to an individual for no reason. The conversation has to continue, and it needs to be done by not just one person. And I think it needs the congregation to say such.
Yeah, and it's tough to predict into the future, what it's going to look like. But what I hope personally is that we start to see more diversification off platforms, whether Uptrend succeeds or not. Like, I'd love for it to, but on the grand scheme of humanity, there's going to be other platforms. Voice is coming in, Minds is doing a phenomenal job. What I just really hope is that people are able to start selecting what their actual preferences are, and not getting Alexa style lazy and being like, okay, these are the values that I actually want to have sustained in my life. Or, like, let's say on Facebook, you have certain kind of data, and on other platforms, you share other types of data. Like, that would be fantastic. And because I feel like there's something for everybody. A lot of people were talking cheap on Libra, for example. Like, oh, Libra, it's not decentralized, it's for corporations, yada, yada, yada. I'm never going to use it. And so that's kind of like this area of ideology, and kind of like what Uptrend is kind of pitching in Minds. Like, we're all about ideology. So come over here if you want to do the work.
Sure.
And Bitcoin as well. And then you look on the other side and you have, okay, so Facebook. But what I'm really representing here, trying to make the point here, is people pull utility from Libra who need it. There are over half the world's population that is underbanked. And so for us, with our little first world ideologies, to kind of say poo-poo to the people who actually need this banking system, and for sure it's going to central corporations, but they need the convenience.
Yep.
And so kind of like my grand thing here is, some people need convenience, and that's all they can have. That's their only access point. And some people are fortunate enough to be able to pursue their ideologies. And so Uptrend is on one end of the spectrum, the ideology spectrum. But Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, these places that still censor information, like, they serve a purpose. And I really hope that all these platforms continue to thrive, and that people are empowered to make their own decision. I think like a diverse selection for people is the best thing, because otherwise, if people all come to Uptrend, for example, and then for whatever reason it turns sour because we got bought out, whatever, who knows? Now you're just as screwed as you ever were on Facebook. So I think having a diverse profile across many platforms, that's the way to do it.
No, agreed. You said something in that statement is that, it's really, our luxuries as, the Western world, as first world citizens, as you stated, these are conveniences in a lot of ways that we can choose to pick and not use or whatever we want. But these are actually the only opportunities for others. And like you said with Libra, I'm a supporter of Libra for two different reasons. Number one is that it's going to keep Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchain in the mouths of the news for at least the next year, minimum. And it brings credibility and credence to an area that I find very, very helpful, and that is banking the unbanked. And the second aspect of this is that this makes blockchain part of everybody's life at some point. Libra will succeed. They will do something. There's too much money involved. The government pretty much walked into Zuckerberg's house during the Cambridge Analytica stuff, and I thought there was going to be something pretty bad to happen to Facebook after that. And what happened? Facebook just shut everything down. They didn't care what the government said. They just answered questions, and it's embarrassing to listen to our U.S. representatives question bipartisanly, not Republicans or Democrats, both of them. Question Zuckerberg, and he's like, "That's literally not how it works." And let me explain it to you. And it's the most basic and simple explanation you've ever heard. And he's there with his jaw dropped, like, are you really asking me this question? And I think that's what our government is dealing with, is they have no clue. They're out of touch. This technology has passed them by, and they're nowhere near understanding blockchain, let alone Facebook, right? So Libra will exist, whether it is through the way that they proposed it. I'm sure they expected some pushback from the government, but I don't feel like they care. And you know what? If you're Zuckerberg, you're like, okay, you don't like it? Hey, Representative so-and-so, let me see all your messages. Let me look at them real quick. Oh, this is what you were saying about so-and-so. Oh, this is what you're telling them. I mean, this dude's got blackmail on everybody in the world. Zuckerberg does. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I find it's kind of pivot on, but on the same topic, I find it very interesting, like more on the personal side from people. They're here so easily to slander Libra and say, don't do this. People should never do that. You should be more open source and choose your own opinion. It's like, well, hold on a second. Isn't that kind of ironic that you're saying don't make your choice and only do this thing that is my ideology? It's kind of like totally backwards. So the people who are really kind of taking a dump on Libra, it's in my mind, it's like, you guys need to kind of reevaluate from a different perspective, because you're just as bad as that. You're trying to censor just as much as Libra will.
That's true. Anyway. Absolutely. And you know what? When it comes down to it, I'm a libertarian in principle, and this, I don't mean to get political here, but I don't think it's any of my business how you feel, Jeff, about things. You can tell me whatever you want, and I appreciate your insight, but it's none of my business if you don't tell me. And so that's how I feel about everything, is if you're not affecting my life negatively, or if you're not breaking the law on a significant level, it should be a reactionary force that is patient and understood. Obviously, with the internet and Twitter, which I think Twitter, I have a whole different opinion on what I believe Twitter has caused this world to believe, which is to react immediately rather than be patient and understand that the news and the whether it be a criminal justice case or whether it be judgment on a situation, and I can use the Jussie Smollett situation as a great example. Is Jussie Smollett gets attacked by a bunch of Trump supporters, right? This is not political. This is not a political side. I'm not trying to side with anybody here, but comes to find out that this was a fake incident, right? And then after a week of Trump hating and Trump bashing, regardless if you like him or not, this was a bad situation. I mean, I personally am of the opinion that Trump doesn't need any help from the mainstream media to look foolish at times. But you know what? The mainstream media likes to make Trump look foolish at all times, and it puts a really sour perspective for me from the left-sided media. And I don't trust them anymore on anything because I feel like there's agenda-driven. I'm not going to get into Fox News or any specific form of for-profit 24-hour news that has made their money off of commercials. But that's between them and Twitter. I don't believe that anybody's getting the actual truth. They're getting perspective and opinion rather than the factual statements. It should be unbiased, and we're not there anymore. But that bodes to my point, Jeff, is that between whether it's Uptrend, whether it's, like you said, there's Minds, there's a few other that are trying to captivate this. You got Voice coming out. I mean, there's several different things. Something needs to happen differently, and it needs to be decentralized to an extent. And where are we at? We're in a bad spot, and we just don't know how bad it is. Probably me and you don't even know, Jeff. I mean, who knows what they can do with all this stuff?
Oh, I mean, there's so many Black Mirror episodes that I already feel have like half come into reality, and we're becoming very dystopian already. And, Elon Musk talks about all this kind of thing where, I won't go too deep into it, but you're very right. We're at the very pivotal point in humanity that pivots or forks in the road that may seem very minor can lead to drastic consequences or benefits in not that far future, 5, 10, 20 years, we're going to see massive shifts based on the decisions we personally make today, the way we vote with our dollar, and the way we vote on the ballot, if you believe in that system.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Okay. So I think we covered a lot, Jeff, and we're going to have more than one of these discussions. So we'll wind it down here. But I'm really, really excited about having the opportunity to present our discussions, Jeff, in the future, and this one specifically to an audience. I think that, as we've kind of alluded to, and we've only hit and scratched the surface of this because of time constraints, and we want to keep this episode under an hour. But I hope everybody enjoyed this episode, Jeff. I'm really grateful for your ability to come on here, tell us what you're thinking, show us what you've done, and your patience in this market, the same way that we've had over at CCT. CI has been just as influential, if not more. Who knows? But we're doing this together, and if maybe, who knows, maybe one day there'll be some platform in CCT, CI, we have some super group, and we collaborate, and I hope that would happen at some point anyways with something. But we got to do something, and our voices have to be heard. Our voices have to be understood, and we need to explain them to people who don't understand this yet. So there's got to be some patience in our own explanations. It takes time. I know how long it took for me to understand this.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. And I'm so grateful for you to have me on the show, and it's always a great time. It's a fun chat every time. I always look forward to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. Hey, thanks everybody for listening to Bitcoin Radio. We will be doing we have some really big guests coming up and got lined up, but to me, none more important than the discussion that me and Jeff just had. If you guys ever want to get a hold of me, you know where to find me on CCT, and you can email me at joe@bitcoinradio.com. Jeff, where can everybody find you at?
If you're looking to connect with me personally, probably just at Jeff Kirdeikis on Telegram. That's where I'm going to be the most prominent, or you can just find me right on Uptrennd. I'm sure you'll see me kicking around there.
There you go. All right, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you soon.